Hey everybody, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today we're going through a week of workouts. Now I recently made a whole video breaking down my 2025 fitness goals that just gives you a little bit more insight into the why behind the structure of my workouts each week. So if you need that information, that's the video. But otherwise, I'm just gonna kind of take you through the week. We're gonna break down what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and we'll go from there. First things first, we're gonna break down everything that I try and hit in a week. So let's just break down the different pillars of movement that I'm trying to hit each week. First up is strength work, and I'm getting in 3 sessions a week. Is that too far away? Do we see it? 3 times a week. Okay, now she's going back. I'm currently on Hunter Krine's Savage Athlete program. It's just a 3-day split. He does all the work for me in terms of programming. It's not just programming for me, it's like for the masses, but it has a lot of kettlebell work. It has all the basics in terms of athleticism, strength and power and conditioning. Right now we are in a little bit more of like a strength endurance phase, which is slightly brutal, but you know, we got to phase our programming and he does all of the heavy lifting in terms of programming for me. So that's the first pillar. Next up is cardio. So my big cardio goal this year is really just improving my cardio capacity, my aerobic capacity, I guess. Again, I kind of outlined this in the 2025 goals video, but in June, I am gonna be running the Queen's 10K, but I currently don't run. So I'm easing my way into it and working my way up to it. One of my biggest weaknesses is just my aerobic base. So I actually started mid-December, so I've been taking like 6 weeks and this is my last week of it, but I'm just building my aerobic base. So I've been really focusing on zone 2 training. The way that I've been getting that in for the most part is through incline treadmill walks, which this is good because this means it's working. It's getting harder and harder to like get into zone 2 just by walking. So that means I'm about ready to progress it. So I've been currently working on getting 2 hours of strict zone 2 training a week. So I really do want to separate it out from my strength work where like, yeah, absolutely. My heart rate gets up into zone 2, but I really wanted to make sure that I was doing like blocks of actual concentrated zone 2 work. So I've been splitting that up by doing 4 30-minute cardio sessions a week. And like I said, I've been doing that incline treadmill walk. My next pillar has been mobility. So I do typically try to get in daily CARs. CARs stands for controlled articular rotations. It's just a fancy way of saying a really controlled joint circle that hits every angle that your joint can make. CARs are not going to build more space in a joint. They're simply going to maintain and preserve the mobility and the space that you already have. So that's something that I guess we can write it down. Daily CARs. I don't track it. Again, I try to typically do it daily. I'm also gonna hit a lot of those movements in like my warm-ups of my workouts. So we're not really gonna track that. But the thing that I have been doing is more corrective work by using Pails rails. We'll talk more about what that means when we get into the mobility day. So I've been trying to hit more of that corrective work 3 times a week. For me, the corrective work is for both hips. I'm lacking internal hip rotation. And then my left ankle, I'm lacking dorsiflexion and also, I guess kind of eversion. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about the specifics when we get into those days, but essentially what this means is that I have a drill for each hip. So I guess 2 drills for the hips and then 1 for the left ankle. So that's what that is tracking. So I am trying to do that 3 times a week to build more space in those joints. We're gonna put it in the mobility slot, but I've also been doing what I call a big stretch. Like a cat, a big stretch. 3 big stretches a week. This is gonna be more passive stretching and it's really just focused on lower body, like hips, hamstrings. Honestly, this has nothing to do with anything. It's just the fact that I grew up dancing and I grew up mildly flexible and I'd like to preserve that flexibility and maybe see if I can get a little bit more. But to be honest, this is just a goal that I was like, yeah, I just kind of want to add this in and see what happens. Not everything needs to be super serious. And then the only other thing that we'll put in here are my daily steps. Again, we talked a little bit more about this in the 2025 goals video. For the last 2 years, I've been averaging 8,000 steps a day. I did keep that goal for this year, but I also knew that because I'd be introducing more specific cardio and actual running that I'm going to exceed that. So on my Fitbit app, I actually never changed it down to 8,000. It's always been at 10,000 a day. So we're gonna say that my step goal is 10,000 steps a day on average or 70,000 steps a week. So these are my training goals. These are all of the things that I have to check off the list. And each day this week, I'm gonna take you behind the scenes of all of these. The things that I did not include in my week of workouts are the workouts that I am live coaching. So for instance, I do have 2 workouts this week that I'm gonna be leading in the Fit Club. I do have one tonight and then I have one on Thursday night. I do not count those toward my movement. Same thing with when I'm filming on-demand workouts, which I actually believe I have to do on Wednesday. I'm filming 1 or 2. None of that counts toward these goals. The reason for that is because I'm not training at an intensity that meets my goals when I'm coaching, because my why in that moment is to coach and to show and to motivate, not to train myself. So we're not gonna touch on any of that. Can you stay? Stay. Amazing. So right now it is lunchtime. After lunch, we're actually gonna go to the gym and we are gonna do our zone 2 cardio as well as a mobility and a big stretch. So I use this app, I guess it's called Productive. I don't know. But I have all of my weekly goals and daily goals that I try and hit in here. So we're gonna check it off now because I'm gonna do it later anyway. So zone 2, it says I have 4 to go. And then I also know I'm gonna do a mobility and a big stretch. So that's basically the way that I keep track of if I'm gonna be hitting all of these things. That's the app that I use. I'll leave it linked down below. But again, any way that you wanna track it, whatever works for you, works for you. This is just what works for me. So as we head over to the gym, we will talk a little bit more about what zone 2 training is, why I'm doing it, how to figure it out for yourself, all that good stuff. So I'll see you then. All right, we are on our way to the gym. Let's chat about zone 2 training. First and foremost, zone 2 training is going to be 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. So let's talk about how to calculate that without getting hit by a car. So you're going to take 220 and then subtract your age from it. So for me, that's going to be 220 minus 35, which I believe is 185. So now that's my approximate max heart rate. So I'm going to take that max heart rate, I'm going to multiply it by 60%, which I believe is around 110. That's going to be the low end of my zone 2. And then multiply it by 70%, which I believe is somewhere around 135-ish. So that's going to be my range of zone 2. The reason this is so important to have if you're working on your cardiac ability is because it's basically your foundation. If we think of it in terms of strength training, you wouldn't jump to doing something like a push press before you have solid overhead pressing mechanics. I wouldn't teach a client a push press until I've already taught them how to overhead press weight. So it's the same thing. You need to have that foundation before you can really perform well at pace and tempo and race pace, basically. So if I'm thinking about my end goal here is to run the Queen's 10K, not only without hurting myself, but also I would love to have a time that's not embarrassing. So anyway, we're gonna head into the gym. I've said this in previous videos before, my gym is not big on filming. By not big on it, I mean they don't allow it. So I'm gonna be as respectful as possible, get a few short clips here and there. I'm gonna stay and do my mobility and stretch work, but we're gonna be breaking that down and really going in depth into it at home on a future day this week. So we won't chat about that too much today. Today's all about cardio. So one thing I forgot to mention is that I try to do something productive during this time. For instance, today I watched 2 YouTube videos on topics I needed to review. I am about 2 weeks out from sitting for my CSCS exam as you're seeing this video, and these were videos on topics that I wasn't super confident in during my practice exam this morning. So you're going to see some other examples and ideas on upcoming cardio days too. Tuesday, the only thing movement-wise that I'm getting done today is my strength workout. It's been a bit of a busy day. I'm actually heading down to one of the gyms that I train clients out of, and I'm gonna train them, and then I'm just gonna stick around after their session and do my session. So really quickly, a little bit more about the strength programming that I'm currently doing. Like I said, I do Hunter Krine's Savage Athlete program. He basically just writes programming every single week, and it gets distributed through an app called Train Heroic. I'm not going to share word for word his program because it is behind a paywall. You can do 7 days free if you want to try it out yourself. Even though we started a new 4-week block this week, we are still working in more of a endurance program. So a little bit more strength endurance. We've got a lot of variety. So it's going to be a fun one. I will show you just kind of more some of the exciting stuff as we go, but we got to get a move on because I don't want to be late. So the basic structure of today's workout was a few different circuits, usually 3 exercises. We'd work anywhere from 2 to 4 sets of 8 to 10 reps with 30 seconds rest between exercises and 1 minute rest between sets. So definitely kind of mixed modalities here. You could argue that this is a mix of strength endurance and hypertrophy work, which makes sense as a progression from our last 4-week block, which was very clearly strength endurance. Now, I won't lie, I didn't have my best workout today. It was kind of a mix of a bunch of things. I don't love training where I work out. It's a great gym, but I just prefer to go to my own gym that I pay for because I feel more anonymous and I can just kind of blend in and do my thing. It was also a little bit later in the day than I prefer to train. So 4 p.m. is just an hour later than the latest I'd like to start my workout. I was just feeling a little bit low energy and sluggish. And then I didn't really take the time to think about my transitions of like where I'd be performing each exercise. So I felt very frazzled throughout the whole workout. I wanted to mention this though, because quite frankly, this shit happens. You're going to have off days and that's okay. It is just part of the process. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I just got done finishing filming an on-demand workout for the 8-week bulletproof program coming in April. I don't know why I took this off because I'm going to need my hands. As we clean up the space a little bit, let's just quickly chat about what we're doing today movement-wise, like for me. So again, even though I just filmed a workout, I was doing it with lighter weights than I would have because my focus is on coaching, not necessarily on using that as a strength workout for me. So what we're about to do is our mobility and big stretch. So we're gonna stack those together because I have the time for it. And today I'm actually gonna show you clips of that. I'll talk through what I'm doing and why. And then I do have a client, but immediately after that, I am gonna go over to Fitness Lounge and I'm gonna get in my zone 2 cardio. It's always funny to me when I go there to do my zone 2 work because like the treadmills are right in the front. And I just feel like I'm always inconspicuously like, and then I like dip out. All right, let me get rid of these dumbbells. I'm gonna get changed really quickly because I don't wanna be in anything that's form-fitting. And then we'll meet on the floor. Hello. Okay, so we're gonna do our mobility work first. I am basically just gonna coach you through this. So you can do this with me if you like. This is just my basic cars routine to start. Again, this is something that I do every day, or at least try to. I have not done it yet today though, so I'm gonna stack it with the rest of my corrective work. I like to sit on a block for as long as possible because, I don't know, it's comfier. So we're gonna do basically head to toe. We're gonna start with the neck. So biggest mistake I see with neck cars is that people typically like just kind of roll through in a circle and you're missing more of that like lateral movement. So let's do it together. All right, starting at the top, take a big inhale. We're gonna exhale, roll down chin to chest. Let's go to the left first. I'm gonna take my chin, draw it along the collarbone. So this is the position I see people missing a lot. So we really wanna twist the head. From here, imagine there's water in your left ear. You're gonna dump it over your shoulder. We start to twist up to the ceiling, continuing our circle. Dump the water out of the right ear, twist chin to collarbone, draw it down. One more in this direction. And we'll go to the other side. So we draw chin along the collarbone, dump the water out of that right ear. We lift up to the ceiling, water out of the left ear, twist chin to collarbone, down. We'll do one more in this direction. Also, I apologize. I know right now I'm going to be speeding up whenever I'm not talking. So if you're trying to follow along, I have other follow along mobility workouts, but this at least will like give you the basics. This video can't be that long. So from here, we're gonna move into the scapula. I know I'm wearing a black t-shirt, so it's a little hard to see, but we're really focused on the shoulder blades. I just like to do this seated, arms out. So all we're gonna do is reach front. We come up, back, and down. Elbows stay straight. And we're just trying to circle through the shoulder blades, making sure they can glide around the ribs, and we can reverse it. Typically with all of these, I'll do anywhere from 2 to 5 in each direction and on each side. It kind of depends on what I'm feeling. After that, we're gonna go right into the shoulders. So for this guy, I'm gonna unhook my block. We're gonna sit back on the heels just so my arms don't touch the floor, and we're gonna do one arm at a time. So let me face it this way. Let's start with the left side. I like to make a fist. You can open the palm, doesn't matter to me. We're gonna flip the palm to the front. We reach across the body. Watch your hat, bicep by the ear. From here, we flip our palm to the side, reach back as far as you can. At the bottom, your thumb faces the back of the room. Then we reverse our circle, flip the palm when you need to. We cut up and around, across the body, palm to the ceiling, and down. Let's just do one more for good measure. Shoulder cars are always really tricky because this is a ball and socket joint, so it can move in a lot of directions. So you just want to make sure that you're getting really specific with where your palm is facing when. And the whole goal with all of these cars, let's go to the other side, is to make sure that nothing else is moving. So you want to make sure that your joint is moving around your body. You're not moving around the joint, if that makes sense. So as I'm coming back behind me, for instance, what I don't want to do is lean away and away from the arm, because now I'm just opening up the angle of my joint. I'd rather you work in the space that you have access to. And that's really what CARs are doing. It stands for controlled articular rotations. I don't know why I did that with it. It's just a fancy way of saying controlled joint circles. But all this is doing is preserving the range of motion you already have. It's not gonna build more space. That's what we're gonna do in just a moment with our Pails rails work. Let's move into the elbows. I'm gonna do this guy seated on my block again because it feels better. And we're gonna do these arms out. So arms are locked out. We're gonna start by curling and deflection. We flip the palms, so we're working on that pronation. And then we extend. Nothing else moves. We wanna make sure that the shoulder is not the joint that's flipping the arm. This is kind of more of an advanced base. Now I'm just gonna reverse it. Usually I would do this like standing with the arms glued by the side, but again, I like to sit on a block, so this is the variation that I'm gonna do. Let's do the wrists. So I always do this guy one at a time. I'm gonna extend one leg so it's out of the way. We bring elbow in. I'm gonna actually grab my forearm to really make sure I'm isolating the wrist, and we're just gonna make our circles. So we pull down, we cut in, up and out. You want to imagine you're balancing a pencil on your wrist. So if you start to flip, you drop the pencil, and we can go the other direction. Other thing we want to ensure is that we're not moving the elbow to get more range of motion. That's a big compensation I see a lot. Let's go to the other side. And if we're thinking like exercise specific, this position, wrist extension, is gonna be super, super important for things like planks, push-ups, handstands, all of that good stuff. Switch directions when you need to. So if we don't have that range of motion, but we're loading our whole body weight on top of it, it's gonna cause issues down the line. Let's go right into a spine car. I'm again gonna do this seated. Typically I usually do cat-cows, but I don't wanna do, we'll do both, that's fine. Okay, so spinal cars. Arms are coming across your chest. We're gonna dive down one vertebrae at a time, rounding through the spine. Let's go to the left first. You're gonna take your whole chest, go over your left thigh. We're gonna start to lift up to the ceiling, peeling, peeling, peeling. Then we come down over that right side, through the center. We'll do one more in this direction. And then we'll reverse it. Ooh, okay, let's go into a cat-cow. With the spine cars, those are typically a little more challenging for people, but if you heard my like breathing, that was just me keeping my core engaged so I didn't like flip backwards. Cat-cows, I prefer to do these spinal segmentation wise, so meaning that we are gonna be trying to isolate one vertebrae at a time, and I always like to start at the base of the spine because I just find it's easier. I like to tuck my toes. There's a lot of I statements. I'm Hermione Granger. Okay, let's start at the tailbone, and we're gonna start by flicking. So we're gonna come into spinal extension. So one vertebrae at a time, working our way up. We're gonna start to flick the tailbone, coming into that spinal extension. It's like someone's walking up your back, one vertebrae at a time, so your head is the very last thing to move. Once you get to your head, keep it up toward the ceiling. We're gonna flick the tailbone under, working our way all the way back up the spine, one vertebrae at a time until your head is the last thing to move. Let's go for two more here. Once you're done there, we're gonna come into some hip cars. I'm gonna do kneeling today because this is taking longer than I wanted because it's being cued through, so I'm gonna do kneeling hip cars today. Sometimes I do side lying, sometimes I do standing. This is the vibe today. So on the forearms, on the knees, tuck the toes, tuck the hips. We're gonna do the right leg first. We're coming up. We open to the side, close your circle. So what we wanna avoid is opening up the whole torso or the whole pelvis. So we're really trying to rotate our femur or our thigh bone inside the pelvis. Good, let's switch directions. We come out, up, and down. The only reason why I don't always love doing kneeling hip cars is because you're not really challenging internal rotation that much, which is my weakness too. Let's switch sides, but we're about to see that in our corrective work, so I'm not super concerned. But like if I was doing this on a day I wasn't doing corrective work, I would either do standing or side lying because you can more easily work on that internal rotation. Good, let's do three the other direction. All right, time to sit on our block. Woo! I'm gonna face you. We're not gonna do knee cars because I typically don't do them. Maybe I will one day. We're gonna do just some tibia rotations. So your tibia is this bone. right down here. It does need to rotate a little bit side to side. That is what we need to do for squats, for lunges, for lots of different movement patterns, biomechanics, I don't know. So the way that I like to do this, heel on the ground, take your fingers next to your kneecap, slide it down about 1 inch, you'll feel 2 bony prominences, and you're just gonna work on rotating out and rotating in. Most people have more external rotation than internal, which is totally normal. I'm really working on trying to isolate this without the assistance of my hands, which is also why I'm not really doing knee cars right now, because I need to master this first. And you'll be able to feel if like your thigh or your ankle gets involved. Good. Before we do the other side, I'm gonna hook right against my leg and we're gonna go for some ankle cars. So again, just like we did with the wrists, I like to hook on so that I can really isolate the ankle and make sure that I'm not getting anything else involved. Good. And you can switch directions, drawing the biggest circle that you can. Very nice. And we'll go to the other leg. And then we can hook, do our ankle. All right, last thing, you have to take your socks off. Ooh, free foot picks, ayo. We're just gonna do some toe mobility. So we can do this guy together. First thing I'm gonna do is just practice spreading all 10 toes and relax. Oh my God, there's hair everywhere. Spread and relax, spread and relax. Let's lift up all 10 toes and down, up and down, up and down. Just the big toes lift and down. And keep the big toes down, lift the outside 4. And you want to try not to roll in on your foot. So we're like really just isolating the muscles of the toes. Let's lift all 10 toes out to in, trying to go 1 toe at a time and reverse it into out. This is my weakest one. Those middle toes are just like useless. But we're getting better. Beautiful. All right, let's move into some corrective work. So we're gonna start with some 90-90 internal rotation biased Pails rails. So let's get into the position and then we'll talk about what the heck we're doing. So again, this is for my mobility work. I'm gonna come into 90-90 base. Perfect. So we got 1 leg front, 1 leg back. We want to make sure we've got knee in line with ankle and hip, so 2 90-degree angles. We're squared off over the front leg, 2 minutes on the clock. So what we're trying to do here, these are Pails and rails contractions. So before we do the 2 contractions, we're holding a 2-minute passive stretch. This 2 minutes is meant to relax the nervous system into this stretch. So what I'm feeling right now, I have plenty of external rotation. I'm not really focused on that. I'm feeling a little bit of like a crunchy stretch in this back leg. To increase it, I can sit back more and I'm gonna feel more of those internal rotators. But I'm just really focused with my yoga block for my hand support on getting into a place where my body feels safe in this position, because what we're trying to do is kind of the same thing you would do with any type of passive stretch. You're just trying to increase your range of motion. So that's step 1. You can absolutely just do that and get more range of motion, get more flexible, call it a day. What we're doing is the extra step where we're taking this range of motion that we've created and now we're gonna strengthen the end ranges through isometrics or through holds. So what that means is that we are trying to strengthen our end ranges so that when we meet those in daily life under force, we don't get injured, because most of the time injury happens just when like our body can't handle the force that it comes under. So that's what we're trying to do. Specifically for me, I have restrictions in internal rotation in my hips, and that's going to impact things like squats, things like deadlifts, things like lunges, because your hips or your femur will need to rotate internally inside your hip socket. If you don't have that, your body is still gonna try and get set exercise done, but it's gonna pull from another joint to do it. So we're trying to get more range of motion to prevent that from happening specifically, as well as other things. So we have about 20 seconds left. I guess I should talk about what we're gonna do. We're gonna do our Pails contraction first. That is where we try and get out of the stretch. I typically go for 15 to 20 seconds or about 5 really, really strong breaths. So I'm going to press down into the floor, irradiate tension through the full body. On my exhale, dig my foot down, try and externally rotate. And now I'm gonna reverse it. Drive the knee down, try and lift the foot, internally rotate. So driving my femur forward. And then I'm gonna relax and we're gonna go to do the other side. Brilliant. So it might look like I'm not really doing much, but this is a great example of like working against your own resistance. This is also my weaker side. I don't know why I never start with it. What we're basically doing is using the floor and using our own mind-muscle connection to get ourselves in and out of movements. I guess that's it. Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna hold this for the rest of my 2 minutes and then we're gonna do the ankle and then we'll talk through my big stretch. Kevin's home! Hi, do you wanna say hi to YouTube? Hi, YouTube. All right, next one we're doing is the ankle. I have a little slant board that I'm gonna be using because one of the issues with my ankles, so I don't dorsiflex very well. This is just on my left side. I had surgery on this left ankle when I was younger. I talked about that in a video one time. I don't know. It's not a big deal. So I don't dorsiflex well, but part of that is because my foot doesn't flatten very well. So it doesn't allow like the bones to move in that way. So anyway, one of the things that my physical therapist showed me is that you can either elevate, show you from the front, the outside of your heel, and it's gonna help your foot flatten out as you come into dorsiflexion, or, and this is the one that I do because it's just more comfortable, you can actually elevate the front of like your big toe area. So that's what we're gonna do. And we're gonna do the exact same thing here. Oh my God, did I like not vacuum in here this week? This is bad. Okay, so anyway, I'm coming into kind of a combat pose. Let me back up so you can see a little bit more. My big toe is elevated and I'm just pushing forward. What this wedge is doing is it is helping me to flatten out my foot. So I think it's my talus can slide back a little bit to allow my tibia to come forward. Physical therapists, tell me if that makes sense. But anyway, that's the general idea. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna hold this passive stretch for 2 minutes, getting myself into this position, and then I'm going to try and get out of the movement first. So I'm gonna try and take my toes and push them through the floor. So I'm trying to straighten out my foot. And then the second contraction, I'm gonna try and lift my toes up. This is a great example of you're not gonna see anything happening because number one, the floor is there. And number two, I actually don't have enough strength to lift my toes up off the floor. So we're gonna hold this for another minute and then we'll do our Pails rails contractions. All right, I have about 15 more seconds left. What I'm actually gonna do is remove my wedge. I don't know if that is bad, but I actually find that I can get like better mind muscle connection in the Pails and rails contractions. So anyway, I'm gonna radiate tension. On my exhale, try and push my foot through the floor. Nothing else moves. So I wanna try and maintain this same shin angle. Then I'm gonna try and pull the toes up. Nothing else moves. So I'm using all of these muscles right here, pulling, pulling. Whew, okay. I'm gonna give my foot a little bit of love. All right, let's do the big stretch stuff. So this is the stuff that just feels really nice and has nothing to do with anything except for the fact that I would like to remain flexible as I get closer to 40s. Let's go. I'm gonna hold each of these for anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes. We're gonna start with a nice little hip flexor drill. And I'm also gonna bring my hand on top of my foot, drive my elbow out into my thigh, open up the chest so I get some nice external hip rotation too. You can also untuck the back toe, doesn't matter. And we're gonna hold right here. Typically, I'm gonna really focus on like hips, hamstrings, all that kind of stuff because, I don't know, that's the stuff that wants to be flexible, I guess. Good. From here, I'm typically gonna sit back, get a nice little hamstring stretch. Sometimes if I have more time, I'll do like the lay on the back and I'll take my yoga strap and do more of that like supine stretch. But honestly, this is taking a long time chatting through this, so I don't have time today. I have a client in 30 minutes. Okay, 10 more seconds right here. And with your hamstring stuff, you do want to try and stay as like hinged as possible. Once we start to round over, we're not getting as much hamstring as we are just like tendons and ligaments. Now I'm going to come into a pigeon pose. So my leg is down. I like to hold this guy for a whole minute. I'll do like 15 to 20 seconds more upright. And then I'll just kind of collapse forward and scroll on my phone. Also, typically what I do during this time is like put on a YouTube video, or I will allow some phone scrolling time. So it's, or like music that I really want to listen to. Like it's usually something where I try to stack it with like, ooh, this is a reward, like a treat. And that way it doesn't just feel like I'm like, ugh, gotta get down, gotta do my stretches. Anyway, 20 more seconds here. And then we're just gonna go right to the other side. Sometimes I'll also do like a, kind of like a Cossack squat, I guess. Like opening up to the side. I just don't feel like doing that today. Ew, and then we'll bring it back into the hamstring. All right, so now I'm gonna work on my splits a little bit. So I don't have my full splits back yet, but I'm getting there. That's why we're doing this. And I'm gonna use a yoga block just for some support so I can get a little bit more passive and less like, oh, I'm holding myself up. So this guy we're gonna hold probably just for a minute for the sake of time. I'm gonna start with my right side because it's easier. So I'm just gonna hold this. I've got the block like under my upper thigh. And again, this is just so that I can feel safe in the movement without like holding myself up the whole time. Actually, if I was set up better, I would have like things to hold on to here, but it's fine. Yeah. All right. Other side. We need a little more support for our left. That's okay. And we're gonna hold her for a minute. Same thing, just hanging out here. I always feel like it's more like my hip. It doesn't want to get into this, but we're working on it. Ugh. All right, last one for today. And again, these all kind of shift based off of my mood and where I'm at. We're just gonna work on our straddle, and I'm gonna hold this guy for 2 whole minutes. And that's it. So now, ooh, this is the fun part. Let's do this together. So now I get to go bloop, bloop. And then I'll get to do one of my zone 2 ones later. Oh, and I did my studying. We on a roll, baby. I have to get ready for a client, but then we're gonna go and we're gonna do our hot girl treadmill walk. Okay. Hello. Happy Thursday. It's freezing, so I'm in this giant sweatshirt and I'm about to hop on with a client, hence the headphones. But before I forget, right after this, we are going to go to the gym. And interesting schedule today. We're going to be running. So I think it's just because we're in like a little bit more of a like strength endurance, slight hypertrophy type of block right now. But this is actually a great transition into actually running next week. So I have a lot of intervals. It's going to be like 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 2 on, 2 off, 3 on, 3 off. And I think that's 3 times through. Then we have a little bit of upper body work. I might do the upper body work. Honestly, like doing isolated like bicep work is never very enticing to me because my biceps are already so big. I don't train them. It's literally just genetic, I think. What was me? So I'm either gonna just do it as programmed or I might play around with a few like kettlebell complexes at the end. Regardless, we are gonna be going to my gym, so I will get the footage that I can get. You don't need to see me from like that angle running. But yeah, that's the update. Am I doing anything else today? I have to look at my schedule. Also, this camera's gonna die. Nope. I do have a class that I'm teaching tonight, but like we already talked about, that is not part of my own workouts. I already filmed a workout today too. So perfect. So I'll take you to the gym. You'll see what you see, and then I'll see you tomorrow. This goes to show you that one workout can really turn it around. I didn't have the best workout earlier this week, but I really loved today. So it started with 10 minutes on the assault bike, which I didn't love that, but you know, it gets the blood flowing. And then 2 rounds of kickstand deadlifts and soleus focused calf raises. The kickstand variation is great to work on some single leg stability, which is going to be ideal for running since it's a single leg sport. And the calf raises hit the deeper muscle of the calf that only connects at the ankle, hence the knee bend to try to bias it a little bit more. Now, the larger, more superficial calf muscle connects to both the knee and the ankle, so by bending both joints, we're putting slack on that guy. You can totally perform either variation, but the soleus is more of a slow twitch muscle, so since I was running for 36 minutes today, that's why we put a little bit more focus here, I would assume. Then the run itself actually felt amazing. It was intervals of 1 minute on and off, then 2 minutes on and off, 3 minutes on and off, and you do that 3 times through. So I followed the instructions and I just kept it really, really slow and easy. Like 4.0, 4.5 running slow and easy, but this will give me somewhere to grow rather than working to like peak failure on day one. Then there were some bicep curls and skull crushers programmed, but like I said, I don't love doing isolated bicep work because mine are already kind of prominent. So I opted for some single arm half kneeling lat pull downs, which I do a little supination twist at the end to at least get the bicep involved. And then I did some tricep push downs. Overall, I really love this program, but I'm also excited for the next workout because it's definitely way more strength based.
We missed a day. Yeah, so it's Saturday. Yesterday was Friday. To be honest, I had every intention. I had it on my schedule of going to the gym, doing my little 30-minute walk, and I actually love scheduling that on Fridays typically because I do on Instagram like a functional Friday where I post an informative video and then I have you ask me any type of fitness question, answer questions that you have specifically. And I love doing that on the treadmill because it makes the time go by like that. Like we talked about earlier, just like love giving myself a task to do while I'm doing kind of this monotonous routine. Honestly, I think it was because of the last day of the month, so much admin work to do, so much busy work. Because on the last day of the month, I'm also like prepping my finances for the next month. I also had to start working on my taxes. It was like all these things converged on one Friday on the last day of the month. I had a ton of people, like most of my custom programming clients, they're into a new phase. So it wasn't only like going in and programming a lot of their stuff. For a handful of people, I still had to program their entire next block, not just like input their next week. So all that to be said, I was done with clients by like 11:30 in the morning, but I was not done admin work until 6:30 at night. That was wild. I actually didn't even get to study yesterday, so I'm gonna have to like double up today. It's fine. That's not the topic of this video. All that to be said though, and I feel like we're learning some good lessons together as you're going through a week with me. Sometimes shit happens. You saw earlier in the week I had a workout that was like kind of meh. It wasn't that the program was meh, it was just like wasn't my best workout, right? I had another workout where I felt amazing. Hopefully we're gonna have one of those days again today because we're gonna go do some strength work today. And yesterday I missed one of my cardio sessions. Now, am I gonna look at that and go, oh, the whole week is lost. The whole week is a mess. I shouldn't even do my last cardio session today because I missed one. No. I'm going to hop right back on. I'm going to get right back into my systems, right back into my routine, because honestly, what happened yesterday doesn't happen very often. So I think the takeaway here is shit happens, but as long as you have good systems in place, you just jump right back in and it's not a big deal because we're zooming out and looking at the big picture, baby. So like I said, today is a strength day. I also am going to get in, I don't like doing this, but it's just what happened. I was supposed to do my cardio, mobility, and stretching yesterday, but we're doing all of that today. So we have strength, we have cardio, we have mobility, we have stretching. Luckily it's a Saturday and I don't really have anything else to do. We have groceries being delivered later and I think I have to go to the post office. Not that bad. So I'm gonna finish up this cup of coffee. We're gonna have a little something in our stomach just so I have like something to pull from, and then we're gonna head to the gym. Let's do it.
All right, today's program was really fun. It was a bit of power, bit of strength, bit of skills. Movement prep had some med ball work, which I always love. And then we saw the Lee Taft special, the roll and reach. I don't know if he invented it, but he's known for it. And it's a great drill for coordination and like lateral control. Also, that angle with the wide lens. Guys, this is humbling. Anyway, the big lift today was squats. So we had this fun squat, clean, long press in our prep. And the key here is speed. So even though I could probably go up a bit in weight, I kept it a little bit lighter so I could really prep those fast twitch fibers. Then the squats were supposed to be back squats, but I just prefer front squats and I've been subbing them in the last block as well. I'm trying to get my elbows up in that, but dude, it's so hard. Also, my ego must tell you that this is 105 pounds. The 25-pound plates are just really dinky on this side of the gym and there's little fives on the sides too. And that was an 8-rep max for me today. Now, that squat was supposed to be in a tri-set or like a circuit of 2 other drills, but for space reasons, I did those separately. So then we finished up with some double snatches and some renegade rows. I'm really working up on building my reps with these at a slightly higher weight. And then I didn't get the renegade rows on film, but I did slip off of a kettlebell and almost face planted. So enjoyed that mental image. And then I got in my final incline walk before starting my running program tomorrow. Now, overall, I hope this video just showed you some realistic ways to set goals and implement them into your life. Remember that it's not always about being perfect. It's about doing your systems more often than not. I'm actually kind of glad you got to see a week with some ups and downs, because it does really show you that even someone whose whole career is involved around fitness, sometimes shit just happens. And that is life, my friends. Lift heavy things, get your heart rate up, move throughout your day, and enjoy the process.